Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast. We're also going to answer one of your climate-related questions as well here on 9 News Watch. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and start things out by taking a look outside, where the story over the last 24 hours has been all of that wind that we've been dealing with in the Denver area. And one thing you can certainly notice on this imagery right now, one thing that's missing: the leaves. Remember those fall leaves that were still pretty gorgeous as of 6-7 days ago? Those are now pretty much gone, at least in my neighborhood, and from this vantage point, looks like those leaves are gone as well. And again, that's thanks to those winds that in some cases whipped over 40 miles an hour here in Denver, and then just east and north of town, some areas saw those winds closer to about 50-60 miles an hour. I should say north and west of town, where we did see some of those winds on the stronger side, and the foothills really seeing in some cases some of those gusts, perhaps 60+ miles an hour. It's still breezy out there today, but not nearly as windy as it was yesterday, and those winds will die back tonight. That mountain snowfall, we've seen that over the course of the last 24 hours. That also tapers off as well. And then tonight, we do have the slightest of chances for a rain or snow shower east and north of Denver. I'll get into all those chances here in just a second. Now, the big thing you're probably noticing right now, I mentioned that it is the wind. I mentioned the foothills. Some cases burst through past 51 miles an hour, but we've seen some of those gusts in a few spots up by Dakota Hills, 60, 61 miles an hour, and then up by Red Feather Lakes. We've seen those gusts periodically topping 45, 50 miles an hour as well. Aurora at Buckley Air Force Base currently reporting a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust. So again, point being, today you will notice the wind a little bit. And then the eastern plains, those winds actually pick up for us later on tonight as a secondary surge of stronger winds moves its way into our region. So Denver, again, this afternoon, this evening, still looking at those gusts, 25, 30 miles an hour. So not as strong as yesterday when those winds were 40+ miles an hour last night as well as yesterday afternoon. But again, it's still going to be on the gusty side, no doubt about that. And then the eastern plains, look at that for us as we get later on through tonight and early tomorrow morning. The winds die back in the foothills, but the eastern plains, Burlington, 51-mile-an-hour wind gust, Ray, 46, 43 for us in Sterling. So the worst of the winds arrives along the eastern plains later on this evening and early tomorrow morning. Then those winds, as we head through the day tomorrow, die back down out that way. Temperatures, 20s and 30s for us in the mountains, 40s, some low 50s popping on up for us along the eastern plains. And those temperatures, you take a closer look in here at the metro area: 49 DIA, 49 downtown, 52 Littleton, 50 Boulder. By the way, fun fact, we dropped down to 24 officially at DIA this morning. That tied it for our coldest morning so far this fall season, our coldest morning officially since April, though a lot of areas downtown and just west of Denver actually didn't drop below freezing. I can say my house, pretty central Denver, we dropped back only to 31 degrees. Arvada only dropped down to 40 degrees. And that's thanks to the winds. The winds weren't quite as strong at DIA, and when you get those stronger winds, it kind of mixes out the colder air at the surface. So long story short, it was not nearly as cold downtown and the west side of town as it was at DIA this morning. But DIA, again, which is our official climate site, not our decision here at 9 News, the official climate site, it was officially our coldest morning so far this fall season here in Denver. Forecast highs for your day today, low to mid 50s for most of us here in Denver. That is smack dab where we should be for this time of year. 55 Denver, 56 Littleton, 52 Castle Rock, 53 Parker. You get the idea. It'll be a fairly seasonable day for us. Sunshine, we'll see a few clouds increase as we get later on through today, and that is out ahead of our next slight chance for some rain and some snowfall. And notice those little kind of fingers there along the eastern plains. Those are little narrow bands of precipitation that may set up later on tonight. A couple of the computer models are bullish about it. Some of them not so much, but you'll have a chance for it, especially east and north of Denver, to see that chance for a stray rain or snow shower. And there is a chance for a dusting of snow in a few spots, and maybe the slightest of chances we see that on the north and east side of the immediate metro area, so maybe DIA, north by Loveland, Longmont. That's where I'll have the chance, again, for a very slight chance for a dusting of snow later on overnight and into early tomorrow morning. But most of us will be completely dry as we head through the overnight time frame. Tomorrow, about the same as today, 56 for us here in Denver. Still on the breezy side, especially in the morning, but not as windy as today, and certainly not nearly as windy as what we saw yesterday. But you'll still probably notice the breeze a little bit as we head through the morning time frame. Now, as we head through the day tomorrow, lots of sunshine, still a little bit of cloud cover for us in northern Colorado. Stray snow shower for us up by the Elk Head and Park Mountains for us in the far northern reaches of the state. And then we really do dry on out as we head through the remainder of the upcoming weekend. Quick look at those highs for tomorrow. 50s Eastern Plains, 30s and 40s in the mountains, and 56 Denver, 57 Arvada, 58 Longmont, 56 Brighton. So maybe a degree warmer than what we're expecting for your day today, but pretty much the same. And then another look in at the metro area. We do have maybe the chance for a few snow showers north and west of Denver as we head through tomorrow night, through the day tomorrow. That's with some of that leftover remnant moisture from our current storm system. That all clears on out of here, and then we're done with the snow and really any sort of rain chances until the middle of next week, which, by the way, puts us closer and closer to that latest first measurable snowfall date for us here in Denver. It's November the 11th today. 10 days from now, or a week from Sunday, is November the 21st, which is the latest first measurable snowfall date on record. So very, very slight chance. I would say 10, maybe 20% chance we see measurable snow officially at DIA tonight. If we don't get that, our next chance for rain or snow probably wouldn't come until the middle of next week, and even that doesn't look all that impressive, and maybe another chance the following weekend. But long story short here, folks, we're going to make a really good run at that latest first measurable snowfall record, latest first measurable snowfall date on record. Now, that said, this is important context as well. The snowpack level across the state, we're close to average. And in fact, once we factor in our current storm, we're going to probably be close to 100% of average. So I know in Denver, we haven't seen any measurable snowfall, but where it really counts, where it really matters, in the mountains, we have seen that snowfall so far this season. So some important context that, yes, Denver, we haven't seen our snow, but that's a bit more of a novelty, frankly. For us here in Denver, the bigger number that matters is the fact that we're really, really dry here in the Denver area. We've seen less than an inch of rainfall since the start of August. That's a real problem. But in terms of the fact that we haven't seen any measurable snowfall yet, not so much of a factor. And again, the mountains have seen, again, it's early mid-November, so these numbers tend to fluctuate quite a bit this time of year. But for us in the mountains, we have seen about what we expect so far this season. And in fact, some spots, what was it, Danielle? We got 5.5 inches at Loveland overnight, so 5.5 inches at Loveland ski area, so the ski area is getting their snow. So again, we're not sweating the lack of snow in Denver because it hasn't been that way in the mountains, at least so far this season. Now, tomorrow into the Denver area, we'll get back up into the mid-50s, as I mentioned, and then that 7-day forecast, we really warm on up. Look at that this weekend. Low to mid-60s throughout the course of the weekend, maybe even topping 70 by Monday, and this is pretty late in the season for us to be topping 70 degrees. Not quite the 80-degree temperatures we saw last weekend, but you know what? I'm sure a lot of us would take that 71 and fair skies for us on your Monday. Wednesday, it may look a little ominous on your screen there. There's a chance for rain or snow. It looks to be mainly cloudy and certainly much cooler, but the rain snow will be pretty insignificant if we do see it. I'll just say that at this point, the bulk of the next storm system is going to stay way to our north. So our next real chance, again, past late tonight, that's a very slim chance for snow, maybe a slim chance middle of next week, and then beyond that, maybe some of the long-range computer forecast models are showing something for next weekend. But if you've been here in Colorado, it's Thursday, so we're talking about next Saturday. 9 days is an absolute eternity in Colorado weather. All right, from the detailed Colorado weather forecast side of things to your climate questions, and we've been taking those climate questions all month long here at 9 News, and that's something we'll continue over the next few weeks, and feel free to send in your questions as well. We have this question that comes in from Landon in Colorado Springs. This is an interesting one. Now, this is not so much climate change related as much as climate overall, but Landon asks, are there any potential impacts to our climate here in Colorado regarding the ongoing shutdown of the heat exchange in the North Atlantic Current? All right, a lot of big words there. Let's kind of break that down. The North Atlantic heat current, let me show it to you here graphically. So here in Colorado, you got to go way out to the Northern Atlantic Ocean, as that question implies. there is the transport of water that takes place from the Caribbean Sea and the Western Atlantic Ocean, and it's called the Gulf Stream. If you're from the East Coast, you probably know a lot about that. The Gulf Stream takes that water and shoves it all the way far north, and that's why places like, for example, if you've ever been to London or Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, those places are relatively warm. They're way far north, but based on their latitude, based on the fact that London is over 50 degrees north in latitude, London should be, based on its latitude, way colder than what it is. But in fact, in London, you just kind of get a lot of rain. You get temperatures in the 50s and 60s. I live there, so I can tell you that firsthand. Long story short is that London, the UK, Ireland, even Iceland. Iceland is part of Iceland's north of the Arctic Circle. Those places should be freezing cold, but because of this transport of water, we get fairly mild conditions in places that far north. So again, London's climate is fairly equal to, say, a place like Seattle, and Seattle is much farther south than London. So hopefully you get the idea from that. So we get that transport of water that makes places north of it a lot warmer than what they should be. Now, there is some disagreement amongst scientists about the shutdown of the North Atlantic Current, but there are some signs that current is not as strong as it used to be. This is a very preliminary science, so again, Landon, I just want to kind of start off by explaining that there's a lot of asterisks. We're still very, very much in the preliminary process of figuring out, A, if it's happening, which is not a guarantee at this point, and B, what the potential impacts of that would be. Now, you've probably heard of El Nino or La Nina. That is the impact of the warmer or cooler sea surface temperatures in the Central Pacific, and then that leads to this big domino effect of weather that for us here in Colorado can sometimes lead to more snow or less snow in the winter, and maybe warmer or cooler winters and springs as well. Because of the fact that, hey, scientists still don't agree whether or not the North Atlantic Current is shutting down. I'll show that to you again here. Again, starting back with Colorado, there's the Gulf Stream, and there's that North Atlantic Current, which transports all that warm water from the subtropics all the way further north. If this were to shut down, there's no doubt it would lead to huge impacts of weather globally, and that would probably impact us in some indirect ways here in Colorado. But the initial obvious part of it is it would make Western Europe and Northern Europe way, way colder. So places like London and Dublin would turn a lot snowier and generally much colder than what they are now. That would probably include places like Spain and Portugal and France as well. So again, those places that are fairly warm right now would turn a lot colder. That would probably ultimately include Russia as well. So maybe even getting into central and eastern parts of Europe would be much colder. And then the domino effects from that, there would certainly be domino effects of that, because keep in mind when we're talking about weather, weather is basically Mother Nature's way of equalizing. So if it's warmer or colder in one place, that'll impact the weather in a different place. So if it's cold one place, that'll have to be kind of equal that with some warmer weather somewhere else. Because this is a hypothetical and way down the road here, we don't know what those impacts would be for us here in Colorado, because it would be warmer in a different place, then it would be colder in a different place, then warmer in a different place. You would need that to kind of play out in real time for that to happen. And by the way, if the North Atlantic Current were to shut down or even weakened, it would take years and years and years for that to happen. And I don't want to diminish that, but again, I just kind of want to explain, Landon, that A, there's a lot of disagreement in the scientific community about the impacts of the North Atlantic Current, though there are some signs that may be weakening, and B, the impacts, the domino effect from that for us here in Colorado, that is so hypothetical, so far down the road that I'm just going to say that there would be some impacts, almost for sure, to our weather. They would be indirect, but the exact impacts of those, frankly, they're beyond my itty-bitty brain. I'll just say that at this point. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an explanation here. I say that in jest, but I do really mean the part that, again, it's very hard to pinpoint possible impacts from something that, A, we don't 100% know is happening, and B, would have some very, very widespread impacts. But that's a great question, though, Landon. Very interesting one. I definitely did enjoy looking that up. I'll leave you with a final look at that 7-day forecast. And thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast and your daily climate-related question. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Have a great rest of your Thursday.